Hi, my name is Dr. Paul O'Malley. I'm a holistic dentist, and I'm the CEO and founder of the Great Oral Health Company. And today I'm going to talk to you about hydroxyapatite. Now, a lot of people want to know about what is it, does it work, why do I have it in my patented formula, and why were we one of the first to ever bring it to the marketplace. So the research that I was looking at, what I was trying to do and bring about was how do we naturally encourage and help the body remineralize its own enamel and its own teeth, and ultimately a person would end up with stronger, healthier teeth, more acid resistant, and could actually prevent and lessen sensitivity, which is a big issue for a lot of adults as they get older. The gum recedes, etc., and they get some sensitive teeth. So I started looking into hydroxyapatite many years ago as a possible ingredient that could enhance the overall toothpaste formulation. And what is hydroxyapatite? So it's essentially calcium and phosphate. Those are the main ingredients in your enamel, the main ingredients in your bone, and in the dentin, the inner part of the tooth structure. But it has to be in a certain ratio. They say it's 1.67. Well, why this fancy number? It's basically saying you need 10 calcium ions for every 6 phosphate ions. And that ratio mimics Mother Nature. So we wanted something that we had biomimicry, or would mimic life. And theoretically then, if we could actually put it in the toothpaste formula where it would stay stable and a person could apply it, brush it on their teeth, they would encourage a more rapid healing and helping the enamel become more remineralized, or at least faster. The structure of the tooth we have, this is an example of a molar, and that's the back tooth, where we see this area is representing the enamel. That's the hardest outer structure of our tooth, and it's actually 2 times stronger than bone. So because it's the hardest outer structure, why did Mother Nature make that? So Mother Nature made that because we want it to be acid resistant. We want it to be really strong against the long-term things that could break down something that would be softer in the mouth. And we wanted something that could repair itself, at least on the surface. So our saliva and buffering agents, all those things can help remineralize. But because of the high acidity, the amounts of food we eat, how quick we can go to the refrigerator and grab a soda or a drink, these things that are acidic, we're starting to see degradation and breakdown. Now, the main thing with hydroxyapatite is that if we could get this crystalline form in a way that stayed stable in a toothpaste, we could apply it. And we can. So it has to be a nano-sized form. That means it's really small. And the reason being is because below this enamel is what we call dentin. You see these lines here. These lines are filled with fluid that comes from this nerve or pulp. Every heartbeat pumps fluid into the tooth to hydrate it and to keep it supple. And also it was invaluable when the tooth was growing into the full size. It needed nutrients to carry outward and take care of the developing tooth and the developing root system. Well, these dentin tubules, they basically have fluid in them. And what happens is, if you put fluid in a straw, and I filled this up with water and I pressed it here, I could feel the pulse on this side. So when a person starts getting a cavity, illustrated by this here where it's gone through the enamel, it's hitting the dentinal tubules. And a person goes, when I have cold water or something sweet, they go, my tooth hurts. It's like I have a toothache or something. It's because it's pulsing down into the nerve. So what to be done? A cavity like this needs to be fixed at the dentist, for sure, because it's already gotten through the enamel. But one that's really small, like we see this one here, that one can repair itself if we have the right ingredients and help Mother Nature do that. So hydroxyapatite to the rescue. But we had to also find out the best forms, because when we break down the dentin and we look at it, I illustrate it here, let's scan this under a more accurate, more powerful microscope. They're only 0.8 to 2 microns, so that's a micron is a 1,000th of a meter. It's very small. So if we wanted something that could not only repair the outer surface of the enamel, but also repair where any dentin might be exposed from cavity or recession, we needed something that could seed inside these openings. So if you start working with just hydroxyapatite sounds great, but you end up with maybe a formulation where the particle size is too large, or it's spindle shaped, which means it won't stick well to the side of the tooth, to the enamel. It'll wash off. So if you're using a macro grade or a large grade particle size, it's going to be mostly ineffective. If you're using a micro grade side, almost all of them are ineffective, except there's a company called Omniadent that makes a more charged particle that will actually adhere. It's not small enough to go in the dental tubules, but it does adhere to the enamel. And then the gold standard is the nanoparticle size hydroxyapatite. So the toothpaste, which mine has, and it has a combination of the nano and the micro, so they synergistically can work together to help remineralize the teeth. As I mentioned here, we have nano-hydroxyapatite versus the micro. You want to make sure you have nano, you want to make sure you have rod shape. The rod shape, they find, adheres better to the tooth structure. The nano actually is so small it fits down in here. It's 10 times less than the diameter of these dentin tubules, so that's important. What do we find out in practical application? Well, we have patients with less sensitive teeth. This is known all now through the research with nano-hydroxyapatite. They're decreasing sensitivity because they're occluding the straw. They're closing this off, so now the pulse won't go all the way through to the nerve, which is really important for people that have sensitivity when they brush their teeth, when they eat cold foods, or anything sweet. It can help begin the body to remineralize itself, or at least stabilize that tooth decay, especially if a person's flossing, because this is between the teeth and they can clean that up. Now, the beauty of the nano-hydroxyapatite also is that we found that not only does it occlude and close that, but when the body begins to remineralize in a microscopic level, it does so in a white crystalline form, which is beautiful because it has a gentle whitening. So you get the aesthetic aspect, but you also get a potentially healing aspect, and it also increases the acid resistance, the tooth surface. So ultimately, it would actually proof the tooth up against some of the onslaughts from acidity, acid drinks, sugars, any of the types of things that a lot of people snack on that can increase acidity in the oral cavity. Now keep in mind, our teeth are constantly remineralizing, day in, day out. We drink something, eat something, it's a little bit acidic, we get some breakdown of the surface. That's why it's important not to brush your teeth after eating or something really acidic. Just swish with water or a little bit of water with baking soda in it to help the buffering process begin. But that enamel is constantly changing. It's always going through a slight evolution of plus enamel and minus enamel. And as long as you give the proper ingredients, like what we have in my toothpaste formulation with the nano-hydroxyapatite, with the gold standard materials, which is also rod shaped, in the right concentration, then you get tooth protective mechanism that mimics Mother Nature. A beautiful and viable alternative to fluoride. In fact, the studies are coming out now. It's competing and may even do better than fluoride because it penetrates deeper in the dental tubule and in the enamel without any of the potential side effects that are associated with fluoride use, especially around children. I hope you enjoyed this and do your own research on this, but let me just tell you this. This has been one of the most powerful things that's happening in dentistry, and it's a buzzword out there. People are learning about it, but make sure you get the right form. If you're not going to use this toothpaste here, my formula, make sure that you're getting a formula that has the right hydroxyapatite. It's not made in a company that's not telling you what the percentage is. They're not giving you the percentage ratio. If they can't tell you those things, it's probably not made by a dentist that's done research on this. And it might just have the buzzword hydroxyapatite, but you could be getting a macro hydroxyapatite that's essentially going to do nothing. It's going to just try to coat over this whole thing here, but it's too big. It won't go down into the dental tubules. And if it doesn't go down into the dental tubules, it's going to wash off. It won't adhere. So you're going to buy something that has a beautiful name on it, but it's been aberrated and it's just a marketing ploy. So make sure you get the real deal. Thank you very much.